viewers, this is Wolf here. Welcome to Wolf's Haven and to another Monster Hunter figure review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Capcom figure builder creators model Fatalis. Now this released as a part of the Monster Hunter 15th anniversary here, and it's interesting that it took this long for Fatalis to actually get his own statue within this line. It only took for him to make a comeback in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. And yeah, his fight was great, and I got an appreciation for Fatalis since that was my first time ever fighting him in the series. Great fight, super cool monster, and yeah, I felt that this was the perfect timing for them to release a statue like this. So I'm really looking forward to unboxing this. The other thing too about this is that this box is huge. This is easily the biggest of the creators models so far. This box doesn't even have like a see-through component to where you can actually see the statue from outside. So it's going to be interesting to see how this stacks up compared to all of the other ones, and I feel like it's going to be very fitting considering that Fatalis is a massive monster. So without any further ado, let's just take a look at the box itself real quick. So of course the front section here has a cool shot of Fatalis here. Very unique styling here. I think they definitely wanted to do something different for the 15th anniversary compared to the other figure builders. You see on this side here we have this cool shot of Fatalis with some characters here. A lot of flame embers in the background as well. Looks really cool. Of course your typical back piece here where it shows the different angles of Fatalis and its pose. And then this is kind of just a mirrored image of the other side of the box here. The top portion also looks kind of cool, where we have this picture of Fatalis here with some more words here. So overall, the box does look pretty cool. But yeah, let's jump into this thing, open it up, and then see what the statue looks like. Okay, so here we have the statue out of the box, and the one thing that I've always found interesting about Fatalis is its design, and that's because Fatalis is definitely designed more like a traditional dragon, and that's something that lays in stark contrast to the rest of the monsters in the series, because Fatalis is nowhere near as colorful or as fancy looking as any of the monsters that have come after it, and that's something that I feel adds an element of rawness to Fatalis' overall design, because it definitely feels like Fatalis is this ancient elder dragon, this ancient monster that has existed since forever and has seen a lifetime of battle, because it's very rugged, it's very weathered and battle-scarred, and I feel like they've done a very good job capturing that in this creator's model statue here. So if we just take a look at this statue, the thing that I wanted to highlight is actually the scales. And I feel like with the scales here, we have a very good looking texture on a lot of them, because we have a lot of these very distressed looking scales with a lot of grooves and cracking going through them, which make them look really aged and very rugged. But the other thing too is like the color as well. So Fatalis has those distinct dark colors on the top and the lighter colors on the underbelly. And I was actually kind of expecting the darker colors to be more of a black, but it seems like in the statue they kind of made him a bit of a dark gray here, which is kind of cool. And then we also have these very light colors directly on the underbody. So the other thing that I wanted to highlight as well is that we actually have a third color just underneath the belly here, which looks like a silverish color. And the one thing that makes me kind of curious is that if any of you guys are familiar with Fatalis' lore, we know that Fatalis is a very brutal monster. It absolutely hates hunters, it hates humans, and it goes so far as to, like, every hunter that it destroys in battle, it'll actually melt their body and their armor to its own body, right, to try to taunt and scare away any other hunter. And I feel like that's probably what they were going for here with this silver design here. I'm not 100% sure if that was the intent, but that's definitely what it feels like with this silver here, right? Because that makes sense with the armor. But yeah, like I feel like that's definitely a really cool detail here, where we have these silvers going all the way down the belly, all the way down to the underbody down there, which is really cool looking for sure. So just taking a look at the face here, there's actually quite a bit of detail going on with Fatalis' face. So I kind of like how we have this fin on the side here, which has a bit of a kind of a brownish, yellowish color on the like the membrane in between here, while we have those dark grays segmenting them off. And then of course we have quite a bit of texture here going all the way down the lower jaw here. A lot of spikes going all the way down, like lining the chin, which looks really good. And the teeth look very defined on Fatalis' mouth here, which looks really cool. Of course, the tongue and the interior of the mouth looks very nice as well. There's a nice color pigment going throughout the tongue and also just underneath that as well. So the mouth looks very good. Even the skin that kind of attaches like the lower jaw looks really good as well. The other thing too that I really appreciate is that Fatalis' eye is very distinct. So we have that almost golden sclera that's very defined. You notice it very easily over the darker scales here, which look nice. And of course the black pupil is very apparent as well too. So that looks very good. I definitely like the shape of Fatalis' nose here. How we kind of like curve up to a point here, and you can kind of see a bunch of grooves here, which look very nicely detailed as well. So we come to the back of the head, and we have a lot of these big spikes that come out and curve outward here, and we have this nice color transition where we go from these dark grays out to these lighter colors on the scales, and the scales are very nicely textured as well. You can see various different segments going through both of these spikes here, so that looks really good. So the other thing I wanted to highlight is also the spikes that kind of go down and line the back of Fatalis' body here, which again look really good. We have more of that color transition from the dark grays to those brighter, almost bony colors, but again we have very nice texture here where there are a lot of divots going through those spikes, almost like those were impact points from other hunters trying to attack it. And there's parts of these spikes that are actually broken, so you can kind of see like right here, this spike right here is actually chipped away, and there's a few other ones that are like that going down the length of the tail, which again I feel like that adds to its rugged, like almost gritty design, right, where it's been through a lot of battles that are parts of its body that are cracked and chipped off. So I think that that's really cool here. So we have like chipped spikes going all the way back, going all the way down, and you can just see as we take a look to the back of the body, we have all these spikes kind of going down. You can see just right here we have more of these chipped spikes right here, and there's kind of more of them going down. You can see that a lot of these spikes here are in various different sizes as well, which looks really good. Fatalis has a very long tail which completely curves around the base here, which looks very good. That's the other thing that's kind of interesting about Fatalis' overall body design, is that it's very long. It has a very long neck, almost like a snake-like neck, and its tail is incredibly long as well. So that's really cool, because then we get to see all of these spikes kind of like curving around and lining the base, which I think is really nice. So just taking a look at Fatalis' wings, one thing that's very different compared to a lot of the other monsters is that these wings are very muscular. So you can just see right here where it makes contact to the main body. You can see very defined muscles as it comes up into like the wing section here. But then if we just spin this around, you can just see how well defined the muscles here are on the back of the wing here. This looks very good as well. You don't really see too much of the different segments on the membrane of the wing here. It's kind of, all you're really going to get here is just a bit of a color transition from like a darker gray down to like this kind of pinkish color for most of the wing. But I do like how the musculature is very well defined here on the wings. The other thing too that I like is that the spike on the very top of the wing here, again, going back onto what I said about that rugged and like battle-scarred design, These spikes look very chipped. You can see that there's lots of cracks going through them and divots going through the spikes here. And even through these sections of the wing here, you can see that there's a lot of cracking going right through the side of the wings all the way down here. So it definitely looks very, very battle scarred. Even the membrane of the wing here is very like chipped and very cut up here. So yeah, it definitely looks incredibly battle scarred here, which looks really good. If we take a look to Fatalis' claws, the claws are also very well defined as well. So we have these very long claws right here. You can definitely see some defined musculature throughout the hands as well. Same thing with the feet as well. The feet look really good with these very sharp angled claws that stick out very nicely. So I think overall, this design for Fatalis looks really good. Like, they did a really good job really making this thing look very gritty. The other thing too that I wanted to point out is the base. So this area looks like it's completely turned to ash. I'm assuming that this base is supposed to represent Castle Schrade, because it seems like there's a section right here, this part here, which looks like this might be some remnants of the castle that got melted to the ground through one of Fatalis' fire attacks. You can kind of see like two parts jutting out here, so I think this is supposed to represent Castle Schrade. That would make sense since that is where we find Fatalis. But yeah, overall, this is a very nicely detailed statue. It looks very good, and I like the colors on this for sure. So here's a size comparison with Fatalis here. So as you can see, Fatalis is just about 2 cans tall. It's just a tiny bit underneath it, but it's just about there. And for a more precise measurement, Fatalis is actually about 11 inches tall from its highest point right here. And then it's about 18.5 inches wide, and then about 11 inches from front to back. So this is definitely on the larger side of things when compared to the other creators model statues. This is definitely one of the larger ones they've made, and it's going to command a lot of space in your display area. You're going to need quite a bit of top room for it being 11 inches, just a little under a foot, and the tail being as long as it is, it does extend the perimeter of the base quite a bit, so it's going to take up a lot of area around the statue as well. So you're definitely going to want to have a dedicated space for this if you're going to be picking up Fatalis, because this thing does take up a lot of space for sure. And then you can even see, just as it's compared to the older Velkhana creators model statue here, it just completely dwarfs Velkhana. You can just see that one of Fatalis's wings could just completely cover up Velkhana by itself. So that just goes a lot to show how large the statue actually is. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the pose. So I do think this is a good pose that they chose to go with. I like the idea of Fatalis standing on his hind legs and towering over the hunter as it curves its long neck down to stare at them and challenge them to a fight. Like, I think that that's pretty cool. But the other thing too is that this pose is definitely optimized to be stared at specifically from this angle, because you get the majority of Fatalis' body displayed here. You get the wings completely outstretched. You can see basically all of its face and the entirety of its front section, but you also get to see the majority of its tail as well from the front, since its tail curves all the way around from the back to the front here as well. So specifically just like this front on, this pose does look really cool. The only thing that I would have liked to see is them designing Fatalis in the pose that you usually see in the artwork, where, you know, Fatalis actually has his wings pointed upside down. Like, the top section are actually pointed down, they're touching the ground. So you have the back ends of the wings actually sticking up. I feel like that would have looked cool. And it's a very unique design, because you don't really see dragons with their wings almost inverted like that. And I feel like that also probably would have reduced the top size of Fatalis as well if it was posed like that. Yeah, like, it would have been cool to see Fatalis posed like that, but I feel like this one still looks really good, and it does get the job done of making Fatalis look menacing, look very imposing and powerful. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to highlight in regards to this Fatalis statue. If I were to go into my final thoughts real quick, I think that this is a very good statue. For this being Fatalis' first appearance as a creator's model, I think they did a really good job both posing this thing and also just detailing it. And the other thing that's nice is I like seeing creators models of this larger scale as well, because you see a lot more detail here than you otherwise wouldn't see on some of the older, smaller statues. Obviously by virtue of this having a lot more real estate, so they can, add a lot more visual nuance to the statue and make things look much nicer. I think that that's really good, and Fatalis here is definitely no exception in regards to that. Everything here looks very good, from the textures around the scales, the colors and everything. They just look really good, and they're just executed very nicely. The pose is very nice. Like I said before, I feel like if they designed it more closer to Fatalis's artwork that you'd usually see, I feel like that pose would have looked cooler, but I definitely have no complaints with this. I think that overall this design was done very well, and it looks good. I think that for anybody that's a fan of Fatalis, and they're curious about, picking the statue up, I definitely think that it's worth the purchase, right? This is a very good looking statue, but of course, this is going to take up a lot of space, so that's something to kind of keep in mind as well. And I definitely welcome them to make more Black Dragons, because I think this is the very first Black Dragon that they've made into a creator's model statue. Well, Fatalis is the very first Black Dragon in the series, but it would definitely be cool to see more. Like, I think there is an Elatrion that's coming out soon, but it would be cool to see other ones, like Dire Morales, for instance, or even some of the other variants of Fatalis. Yeah, it would definitely be cool to see those. But yeah, that's basically gonna bring this review to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys found it informative. If you have any questions about this Fatalis statue, or any of the other Monster Hunter statues or plushies, feel free to drop a comment. But apart from that, there's definitely going to be a lot more Monster Hunter unboxings and reviews coming in the future, so I hope you guys stay tuned for all of that. But until then, I hope you guys have a good day or good night depending on where you are, and I will see you all later.